All right, thank you so much for checking out the video. Before we get started, click on that red subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you know whenever I post a new piece of content. Today we're talking about what is the biggest independent blockbuster of 2023. It's called The Sound of Freedom. I've gotten actually probably like 3 or 4 different requests from people directly to review this film. I didn't see it in theaters, waited till it came out on digital, and I finally seen it, and it's really, really, really good. Is the movie perfect? No. Does it have some flaws? Yes. Are they significant? Sure. But overall, this movie is really, really, really good. I want to talk first about kind of like its place in pop culture over the course of this year, and give it a little context of how successful this movie has been. I think it's important when you talk about a film like this that has just blown away all expectations. So it was the 10th biggest movie at the box office 2023. I'm just talking about domestic gross, so this is total US dollars that the movie has made. Here's the top 10 list. Barbie, obviously, Super Mario Brothers movie, Across the Spider-Verse, Guardians 3, Oppenheimer, Little Mermaid, Avatar, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, John Wick Chapter 4, and then that was number 9, and then this is number 10. So the 10th biggest moneymaker. Here are the movies that it made more money than in 2023. This is a fairly staggering list. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, which it deserves because that movie is garbage. Watch my review. It has a lot of profanity. Sorry. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. Fantastic movie. Loved it. One of my favorite movies of 2023. This made more money than that. Taylor Swift The Eras Tour. I'm sure that'll still make some more as that's still ongoing. Transformers Rise of the Beast. Creed 3. Elemental, which is a Pixar film. Fast X. Fast 10. Puss in Boots. The new Ninja Turtles. Five Nights at Freddy's. So far, that movie came out, I think, a week ago. Scream 6, The Flash, Megan. These are movies that were like movies of note in 2023, and they all made less money than The Sound of Freedom. And basically, this movie is about a guy named Tim Ballard who works for U.S. Homeland Security, and he fights human trafficking, right? He mostly captures human traffickers in the U.S. and puts them behind bars. He is not in the business of actually going out and rescuing the children. But all that changes during the course of this film. It's like it's just about 2 hours long before the credits roll, and I guess I would call it like an action thriller with some fairly heady dramatic elements that has some real good moments of tension, and then also it has some moments where that tension doesn't work so well. I think the movie is, if I have one criticism of the movie, it's that it tends to be a little bit melodramatic at points, and I think there are moments in the film when it should have taken a less is more approach to some of the more like intense moments. I think there's just a little bit too much going on with the production values that kind of actually siphon away some of the tension from the movie. So the music is a bit of a problem. It's a little bit overpowering and overbearing at times. And again, I think a less is more approach would have maybe served it a little bit more well in some of those moments. Jim Caviezel, not really surprised to see him in a movie like this. People have kind of branded this a faith-based movie. I think that really is selling it short. Those elements are very few and far between. This is a movie that has profanity, it has violence, it has, it has very intense depictions and actually implements real live footage of people who were being trafficked, especially in the beginning and at the end. The movie, and here's some like light spoilers. The movie starts off with a father, and I believe it's Honduras, and his 2 children are taken from him and trafficked because they are like recruited to be in this like by a talent agency. This beautiful woman who's like one of the most beautiful women in the country is recruiting young kids, and she's of course like one of the biggest monsters in the entire movie, because she's ultimately responsible for getting these kids away from their parents, and then they disappear. And the movie follows Ballard as he attempts to rescue both of these children, and then is kind of roped deeper into that criminal, nasty, seedy underworld of trafficking himself. And yeah, the movie's really, really, really intense. And for the most part, it really works. It's hard to watch sometimes, and the emotional resonance that Caviezel portrays here is really good and seems very genuine. And overall, I really, really like this movie. I don't think it's perfect. I think it is undercut by some of the heavy-handedness when it comes to the production. But overall, I mean, it doesn't really drag the movie down. It gets its point across about how monstrous and evil and wicked these people are, and how important it is that people like that get brought to justice. And there's been like this weird attempt to tie it to QAnon, and all these like big far right conspiracy theories, which of course is simply not the case. The idea that there's not like a global ring of people who hurt children is not far-fetched at all, because the guy who totally didn't kill himself in prison in Brooklyn was actually running one of those rings, and we know that, and we know the names of some very high-profile people who are on that list. So yeah, the attempt to like smear this movie has been a bit nonsense, and I think that's been proven kind of by the domestic box office haul that it has. So movies really, really, really good. Again, it's not perfect, but overall, acting performances are rock solid. I think the script could have used a little bit more polish. I mean, the movie was in production for quite a while, or being worked on for quite a while, from the premise to finally getting into the screens. But overall, really loved it. Thought it's great. Glad I got a chance to finally watch it. And this is really a movie that everybody should watch. Human trafficking is a huge problem. And the people that don't think it is are frankly idiots. I mean, and in my line of work, I do have a real job. And in my job, I have to go through annual training to be up to compliance on human trafficking. I know what to look for. I know what the signs are. I know how to report it. I have the phone number for the human trafficking hotline if we have to call it. It is a real problem. I wouldn't have to go through this process every year if I didn't work in an industry where, unfortunately, people get trafficked through hospitality, which is the industry that I work in. So, yeah, great movie. Highly recommend it. It's one of those movies that just everybody should see. You really don't have an excuse not to see it. And I'm kind of surprised that it's taken us this long to get a movie that tackles this subject so directly. I mean, we've had movies about kidnappings before, Ransom, the Taken series. Like, that's not anything new, but I think something that dives this extensively into like the concept of kids being trafficked is something that's actually really important and everybody should care about. So thanks so much for checking out this video. If you liked it, found it helpful, I hope you consider subscribing. You can also like and share the video. That tells the powers that be it's worth promoting. And hit me up in the comments. Let me know what you think of Sound of Freedom. I think it's great. And I'll see you next Wednesday at 9 a.m.